A few years ago, they were awarded the Congressional Gold Medal. I always like to go ahead and compliment. I always like to compliment this regime for the job that they did during World War II. They flew everything. They flew that B-25 bomber, they flew the training plane, they flew the fighter planes. They even did some tow target work with the A-20 and planes like that they flew.
Harry, that's a great story. In fact, I'm good friends with Bee Hyde, who's a WASP, and even her age at like 98, I think she could probably still shoot down like half of his hair now and all that. So you're actually in really good shape. I'm going to ask you, how old were you when you were having the air combat with the FW-190s? Because I'm going to actually take that into another dialogue here.
Yeah, I believe I was 20 years old at the time.
So 20 years old, I think I was trying to see how fast my dad's Chrysler New Yorker would go, right? And you kind of look at kids, I think some kids today, at 20 years old, they're more worried about whether their iPad batteries are going to kind of like, burn out or something like this. And I think it's really good to understand a bit of, kind of the gravity of what Harry was doing at that age of 20. Now, one of the things I'm going to go into before we get like to the gunnery trophy discussion is I've been fortunate to have some backseat time in the Mustang and at some events and all this, and it's an unbelievable experience, the physical strain that air combat puts on your body. I mean, you start to like almost like black out and get tunnels. The G-forces make your face, essentially like fall down. But tell us a little bit about that, because I think that's the air combat is probably kind of almost like a good training regimen after a fashion.
Well, certainly in combat there in the Air Force, and I flew mostly in the winter time there, but we were flying at high altitude. We got as high as maybe, it depends on how high the bombers were, but the B-17, they usually flew at a higher altitude, and they sometimes pushed us up as high as 32 or 32,000 feet, where the free air temperature up there was 50 degrees below zero. So the heater in the airplanes that we had weren't that good. They were what they call waste heat heaters, and they were bypass air that came off the engine that was ducted through the cockpit. But by the time it got to the cockpit, it wasn't that warm. So we had on very heavy flying suits. And just to acquaint you with what happened, when I got up in the morning out of my cot there, of course I had my long winter underwear on, the Bully Woolies, but when I started dressing, I had 3 pair of socks that I put on. I put on a nylon pair, a wool pair, and a cotton pair. And they were designed that way to take care of the perspiration that you had so that you wouldn't get the freezing. But anyway, and then I would put on my regular pants there and put on my shirt. I put on a scarf, and then I put on my winter flying pants there, which were like fleece line flying pants. I put them on. Then I put on my flying jacket. Then I put on my shoes, which were high quarter military shoes, but then there was a pair of fleece lined shoes that I put over that. Then I would put on the other paraphernalia. I had a bailout tank that I would have strapped to my legs, 1,800-pound pressure bailout tank, in case I had to bail out at very, very high altitude, and I'd put the tube in my mouth and turn a spigot there to get oxygen as I was coming down. Then I had a Bowie knife on me that I would carry in case I got caught up in the shrouds in the planes or something to cut myself loose. Then I had a 45 caliber pistol that I carried on the side there. Then there was a Mae West that I put on, and this was an inflatable life jacket, and I pulled the strings on them, and they would open a CO2 cylinder, and they would inflate the life jacket in case I went down in water. And it's not ended yet. Then I put on my parachute, and under my parachute, I had a life raft, a one-man dinghy that also I could pull out and climb up in once I inflated it with the CO2 cylinder. And then it had other things like fishing tackle, and all of that sort of stuff. It's going to fish out there in the water there. But anyway, it also had bailout package. And in that bailout package, I had Russian money, and I had Italian money, and I had German money, and I had all sorts of money there that I could go ahead and try to bribe my way out of the territory that I went down in. Thankfully, I never had a cause to use that. Then there was my helmet that came on, and the helmet had the oxygen mask, which covered most of my face there, and then the gloves that I put on were 3 pair of gloves, leather gauntlet, and then a woolen pair, and then a nylon pair. Well, all in all, I guess I was about 150 pounds when I got up in the morning out of the cot. But when I was ready to get in the airplane, I'm sure that I must have weighed at least 200 pounds. And I was so clumsy that my crew chief had to help me in the plane and had to strap me in the plane and fasten my seat belts. And then there was a 75-pound fuselage tank behind me. I couldn't even turn around to see how much fuel I had in it to check it. But there was a mirror up in the cockpit here, and I could look in the mirror and see it. But that was the type of thing that I had in flying the combat.
Yeah, so you can see how strenuous it is just to even like get to a point of like even fly some of these things. So Harry, I got a couple more questions to run past you. So, we talked a little bit about the 1949 gunnery competition, and I think talking with some of the other Tuskegee Airmen and some of your colleagues, I think 2 factors. One, the different types of missions that you flew in Italy and Germany. Both air combat superiority type maneuvering and missions, and then also ground strafing probably led a lot to kind of winning that trophy, which actually disappeared and was found by Zelly Orr many years later, is now in the U.S. Air Force Museum. But one person that's kind of been instrumental in the formation and direction of the Tuskegee Airmen was General Davis. And a strict disciplinarian, but fair. But tell us what it was like to have like a great leader like General Davis, kind of showing you the way.
Well, he was great, and I think that the Tuskegee Airmen never would have had the success that they did without him. He was a West Pointer, and he went to West Point. His dad was a general, but Benjamin O. Davis Jr. was one of 3 graduates. 3 African-American graduates from West Point up until that time. He had a hardship to overcome at that time there, and when he went to the point there, 4 years there, he had no roommate. He slept, in a room by himself, and he had no table mates in eating dinner, is that the other cadets did not eat with him. So he had to go through his 4 years without any companionship and that type of thing, and yet he graduated within the 10th percentile of his class there. He was a great man. I had the privilege of flying his wing. We had 4 squadrons overseas there, the 99th, the 100th, the 301st, and the 302nd. He had his plane in the 301st. That was the squadron I was in, and I had the privilege of flying his wing, being his wingman, on a couple of occasions. Again, when we left overseas, and we all were stationed in Lockbourne Air Force Base in Columbus, Ohio, where the 332nd Fighter Group, or the Tuskegee Airmen, were again resurrected as a fighter group there. When we were chosen, 3 of us were chosen to go out to Las Vegas, Nevada and compete in the Top Gun tournament there. Colonel Davis wanted to see us in his office. And the 3 of us walked in and we saluted, he was a strict disciplinarian. And he said, "Gentlemen," he said, "you're going out to Las Vegas, Nevada," and he said, "you're representing the 332nd Fighter Group, And we're hoping that, you do all you can to go ahead and bring back the trophy that they have out there and distinguish yourself as a Tuskegee Airman. And by the way, gentlemen, if you don't win, don't come back. He had a little grin on his face when he said that, so he was a strict disciplinarian, but he had a heart also. Anyway.
No, that's a great story, Harry, and I think some of the prior experiences, both air combat in Italy and Germany, and then also having a WASP essentially kind of quote-unquote wax your fanny, as the saying goes, right? I think probably led up to, I think, that success around the winning the gunnery trophy. So kind of I got one kind of like last question for you. So there's probably some folks out there, whose kids are interested in aviation and maybe flying and all this. What sort of advice might you give them?
I say set your sights, and usually the path when you set your sights isn't easy, and you're going to run into some barriers and some disappointments and some handicaps and that type of thing, but don't let defeat down you. Have confidence in yourself, and remember that if you try hard enough, you can go ahead and make it happen. So don't let defeat down you, and try your best and do your best and try to excel. Not to be mediocre, but try to excel.
Oh, that's great, Harry. And I've got one last little kind of like math problem question for you. How old are you?
93.
Okay, I actually don't think Harry's 93. I actually think he's 20, right, talking to him. So anyway, let's give a big round of applause to Lieutenant Colonel Harry Stewart, air combat veteran. And one other thing, by the way, you want to alert the airport security people if you see Harry climbing up on the left wing of that C model and saying, "Oh, I just want to go check it out. Looks really nice." So just stay away from the propeller, okay? Because, like I said, I think he's going to go off and go buzz all the boats at Lake Lanier. Thanks again, Harry. Let's give him a big round of applause, and we'll get ready for our next presentation here in a bit.